Let's go on a tour of my simple and relatively inexpensive van build that is oriented towards maximizing open space, towards accessibility and ease of use, keeping the area by the side door open and uncluttered, keeping the design proportionate to available space, and oriented to changeability. In other words, I can change things around and put them in different positions. The idea here is a build that is existing somewhere in that happy middle ground between the elaborate, expensive, highly artistic, or high-tech builds on the one hand, and the cheap, low-end, no-build builds on the other end.
No-build build. Good news, you don't have to do the build. It can be really, really simple.
So, in this video, I'll give you a tour and discuss why I did things the way I did according to my goals and personal preferences. One area where I'm different from a lot of van builders is that for me, I don't do a lot of cooking, so my kitchen needs are minimized. I do a lot of writing and reading, so that is where I put emphasis in my van design. Here are some things my van does not have. It does not have a claustrophobic design. Something that for me is really important that I don't see in a lot of van builds is designing with an eye towards proportion. This means your design is proportionate to the available space. A lot of people who do a van build like to have everything big. They like to have a big kitchen. They like to have a big sink. They like to have a big counter space. They like to have a big closet, a big bathroom, a big bed. Well, the problem with this is that when you have so many big things in such a small space, it's very hard to arrange it so that it doesn't feel claustrophobic and crowded. So now let me tell you some of the things I do not have in my van in order to try to avoid this problem. I do not have insulation. I do not have big cabinets sticking out into the living space. I don't have a built-in bathroom. I don't have built-in heat or air conditioning. No TV or computer monitor setup. No solar panels on the roof. No built-in stove. No large sink. No oven or microwave. Do not have a full or queen-size bed, and I have no garage storage space. For the van build, I chose a middle option, namely the medium roof, long wheelbase Ford Transit. If money had been no object, I would have picked a high roof version, as I think this gives a more spacious feeling, and I would have gotten a van that had a window on the side door. Mine does not, and I will probably make that upgrade later on. So let's go inside and look at some of the details of this build. The first thing to mention is that I value functionality and soul, but not perfection. So for all the perfectionists in the audience, you will probably not like this van build because it is a bit rough around the edges, which I refer to lovingly as a rustic design. However, you may find some things of value here because I have some unique elements to the van build that I've not seen anywhere else, so stay tuned. The other thing to keep in mind is reality. Even the most tidy, neat, meticulously built van build can turn into a mess when you have things strewn all over the place, which tends to happen when you have lots of things going at once. Now, let's take a tour of my van build. The first thing to notice is the position of the bed, which is atypical. I don't see a lot of people put the bed in this position. Most people use a full-size bed rather than a single size. I could not put the bed in the perpendicular position because it's only 68 inches from side to side, which is not enough room to stretch out. If you've watched many van conversion videos, you'll notice that almost everyone has a full-size raised bed, and they do this in order to create a garage under the bed, which they can use to store large items like bicycles, kayaks, surfboards, etc. To me, the raised bed just looks disharmonious and unattractive. Or I could say, to me, the feng shui feels all wrong. The raised bed causes the space to feel divided in a way that is off-putting to me. And so the position of the bed determines the position of the kitchen in the van. And because I did not want a kitchen counter blocking the side door, a lot of people put their kitchen counter here. But for me, it's extremely important to have the entire side door opening completely unobstructed with a kitchen counter or other items in order to feel like I am intimately and immediately connected to the beautiful landscape just outside. Thus, in order to not block the side door entrance, the kitchen counter needed to be located on the opposite wall of the van, which is where you see it there. So I have two parts to the kitchen counter. I have a rounded 2-foot wide kitchen counter, and I have a sink counter, which, because I use the counter more than the sink, I decided to build a removable counter that fits over the sink. The faucet can turn back and the countertop can be removed. Fold back this piece of wood, and then I can remove the kitchen counter and use the sink. However, I found that a plastic dishwashing bin placed on top of the counter works best as a sink. I have dishwashing supplies and toothpaste and toothbrush in a container right over the sink counter. I also have a drop-down dining and writing table, which can be used while sitting on the bed, which doubles as a sofa. Now let's take an overall look at the space. The walls are covered with cabinets, although the cabinets do not stick out far because they use the recessed space inside the wall. This shows the recessed areas inside the wall and how I built cabinets that would make use of that. Now, the multiplicity of cabinets causes an emphasis on rectangular shapes, and I wanted to relieve that, so I created wavy lines to go along the cabinets. I used a subtle line by cutting waves made out of unpainted wood, so they don't stand out a lot, so it's not noisy, but it does create something that relieves the rectangularness of the design and allows me to put photos from various places that I love to visit, along the waves and accent the wave shape along the wall. Another reason not to have a raised bed is that having a bed in the ordinary position, especially running parallel like this, allows it to double as a sofa or chair. Actually, in my van design, I have several things that have multiple uses. The dining table is a writing table. The refrigerator doubles as a nightstand. The sink area doubles as a kitchen counter. The kitchen faucet setup doubles as a shower. There are two ways to take a shower, and a shower can be taken indoors or outdoors. Clothes bin doubles as a bathtub. And the sink cabinet doubles as a lockable, secure safe for valuables when I'm away from the van. Now, let's take a look and see that there is actually a lot stored under the bed, even though it's in a low, regular position. We have about 9 inches of space under the bed, which is room for a large clothes bin with portable folding table. This clothes bin is big enough to double as a tub, as well as a tool bin with a plastic bin that can double as a portable sink. This diagram shows all the things that are stored under my bed. In the back area of the bed, I have a box full of maps. I have a buddy heater, which is just the thing for a frosty, cold winter morning. I have a jump start kit in case my battery goes dead. I have a battery charger to charge the battery in case that is needed. I have an extra shower, the geyser shower system. I also have a tire inflator kit. Now, heading over to the area underneath the kitchen counter, a solar panel, which is used to charge my battery when I am camped, and that would look something like this. And then while driving, we have a inverter that is located behind the driver's seat. This can charge the battery while I am driving. Make sure to turn the inverter off when you turn off your engine. I didn't do that one time and drained the van battery. You notice I have carpeting on the floor, not wood. That's because I like the soft feel of the carpet underfoot. And in this main area where most of the kitchen work is done, I have 2 layers of carpets, so if the top layer gets dirty, I can just throw it out and replace it. In this sink cabinet, we have this because, unfortunately, the drawer tends to pull out and open up while we are driving, so this helps prevent that. These two are where the cabinet can be padlocked to make it into a safe for valuables. Now, inside the sink cabinet, we have the water system. So we have a 12-volt pump that pumps out of a 7-gallon freshwater container. The drain goes down into a 1¼ gallon gray water container. We also have a pot in here which has a specific use. To heat up water for showers, it's about 1 1/3 gallons. And when we want to take a shower, we use the items that are inside the pot. To use any water, either from the kitchen faucet or from the hose bib, it's necessary to power up the water pump, which is done by connecting the 12-volt plug inside the kitchen cabinet. Extends via a wire to the battery in the rear of the vehicle. Now, something important to note when setting this up is you have to know the amperage used by the water pump, and that when the pump is starting up, it can go even up to 9 amps. So the first 12-volt plug that I bought burned out quickly because it only had a 5-amp fuse. So be sure to get a 12-volt plug that has a 15-amp fuse. And then you can run your faucet without any problem. Now, I've set up a T-fitting out of the water pump so that one side of it goes to the kitchen faucet and the other part of the T goes to the hose bib, where you can connect your hose if you want to take a hot shower. So in the front of the van, behind the reversed passenger seat, I have a fire extinguisher, and then behind that I have some rubber mats to use if I get stuck in sand or mud. They'll allow the tires to grip. And then behind that I have a 4-gallon water container which is used for showers. Now, the way this works is I have a 3-gallon marking on this container, and I keep 3 gallons in it at all times. If I want to take a shower, I pour 1 1/3 gallons into my shower pot to boil the water. Then I take that boiling water and put it back with the rest of the cold water, and this combination produces just about the right temperature to take a shower. Then I can just remove the inlet hose from the 7-gallon freshwater container and put it into this 4-gallon container, which now has hot water. And then I can turn on the hose bib after the hose is connected with the sprayer, and now I am drawing water through the water pump from the hot water container, and it goes through the hose and out the sprayer, and voila, I can take a shower either indoors in the clothes bin converted into a bathtub, or outside, either in the open if there's no one around, or in a pop-up tent. I also bring with me the geyser shower and the simple shower. I've also tried the pump spray shower, but it doesn't work well because the pressure drops and you have to pump it up in the middle of your shower. Now let's talk about total fresh water available. 7-gallon tank under the sink. I have 3 gallons of shower water. In the back of the van, I have an additional 6-gallon blue water container and a 5-gallon beige water container. And then next to the refrigerator, I have a 2-gallon water container, which, if needed, a second 6-gallon container could fit where the 2-gallon container is located. So I can carry a total of between 23 to 27 gallons of fresh water, plus at least 1 gallon or 2 in water bottles. Now let's look at seating positions in the van. The passenger seat is turned in a reverse position. It's not on a swivel, it's just installed in reverse, so that's one place I can sit. And I can also sit here at the writing table. I do a lot of writing and art and reading when I travel. So for me, it's more important than for many other people to have a writing table. And it's very comfortable. There's a light over there that comes on that can be used for reading. I can also sit in this direction. And I have a small portable table, which could also be used and set up there. And then there's this sofa seating lying position. Note that the refrigerator, which is placed next to the bed, doubles as a nightstand. Now let's look at the cabinets. I actually can bring enough food with me to last at least 2 weeks. So I have plenty of food items here, as well as in the cabinet next to it. I've found that the skillets with folding handles work best to store in the cabinet. These cabinet doors have 2 latches because even though there's a lip on these shelves so that things sit behind a lip and can't slide off, things will fall out and fly out on bumpy roads. So I found that I needed to have not only the magnetic catch, but the second push engage latch for the cabinet doors. The third set of cabinet doors is my library. I have a big library. I have a lot of books that I bring along that are on hiking, on parks, maps, and trail guides. And the cabinet doors below have additional space that I often use for a camera and electronics. Below the kitchen counter, which is curved because you have to be able to have room to walk through here, we have a propane stove and some box of utensils. So the propane stove can be pulled out and set up in different places. It could be set up there, it could be set up there, it could be set up here, or it could be set up here. Note that I have a removable steel ring that fits on top of the stove. The reason for this is that a stovetop espresso maker will not fit on the stove without it. You see, the bottom is too small to fit here, so we have to have something wider, and you can just buy these on Amazon, and that sits on top of that. The drawer underneath the kitchen counter has most of the things I need for cooking. It has utensils, it has bowls, it has plates, and it has the toilet paper. And because this will fly open when I'm driving, because the magnetic catch is not strong enough, I also have a slide bolt that helps hold it closed. Underneath the kitchen counter area, we have the trash can, and you need a large trash can. This trash can, even though it's pretty large, will fill up in 2 to 3 days. Behind the trash can is the toilet, which is a very simple toilet, and is the collapsible step stool, illustrating the use of the step stool. So, a word about composting toilets. People who have van conversions either use a chemical toilet or a composting toilet. However, the term composting toilet is actually incorrect. Van dwellers will use the term composting toilet to refer to any situation where they are placing the solids in a bin with organic materials such as sawdust, peat moss, coconut shavings, or the like.
You can use sawdust, you can use rice hulls.
It is incorrect to refer to this kind of setup as a composting toilet, and here is why. In order to actually compost your solid waste, it takes a year and a half. Nobody is gonna have a pile of poop in their van for a year and a half until they return it to the ground as compost. Most people will need to empty their solid waste bin every week, if not every few days. And that amount of time just barely gets the composting process started. So no, you are not composting your solids. All you're doing is putting stuff over the solid waste to reduce the odor. So you could call it an odor-reducing toilet system. Most people are just a little bit uncomfortable dealing with their body waste, and so they like to make it sound green and environmentally conscious, but the reality is you're just dealing with waste in your van until you can get it out of your van. So once we get clear and honest about it, we realize that the process can be very simple. I've got a waste bin inside a larger 5-gallon bucket. The smaller waste bin is for urine, which can then be poured out into a bottle to dispose of later or directly disposed of. And the large bucket has pine shavings, which can be built up in layers to keep the odor down on the waste until such time as that can be disposed of either in a cat hole somewhere in nature or in a vault toilet in a park. Behind the toilet, there are additional cabinets built inside the hollow spaces in the wall, and these would not be available if I had insulation. So in here, I can put wine bottles. It's a good size for that. And behind the solar panel, I have additional what I call secret cabinets. Okay, so this one has an extra kind of, you could call emergency shower, which is the simple shower. And here's a multimeter. I don't know why. I'm not sure why I have a multimeter with me, but there it is. This is a weird cabinet. I just wanted to make use of this odd space in the van. And over here we have a little secret pouch. Opens up, You can drop things down inside this bag that's attached inside the wall. Isn't that clever? There's one more secret cabinet, and it's inside this lower cabinet. Oh, there's actually two there. I forgot about that. Something else to point out is that behind the dining and writing table, I have a small shelf, which is isolated using this item that can be made into a lip to keep things from sliding off. It can come out, these slide bolts. And then underneath the table, you can see that there's a shelf underneath the table that has room for other additional items like art supplies. And they are held in and kept from falling when the table is in the down position and can be latched. Oh, I forgot, there's one more secret cabinet, which is right underneath here behind the stove. This opens up, and what do I have in there? You know, obviously this is not very practical. A narrow, small little cabinet poster, in case I want to put that up at some point. And I have extra battery cables in case I need something like that. Now, proceeding to the back, we have the rather large refrigerator. Even though I'm not a full-timer, I like having a large refrigerator because then I don't have to go shopping as often. And if you've done much traveling in rural areas, you may realize that the produce availability in those areas is horrible. In fact, there are some small towns that have no produce at all in their stores. And the food stores that they have, the so-called grocery stores, are essentially just large convenience stores, and all they have is garbage. So you want to be able to bring as much fresh produce from your urban location as you can. Next to the refrigerator is my comforter for the bed. Underneath that, I have a 2-gallon water container, and I have some extra shoes and Ugg boots sitting in there for cold weather or warm weather with the sandals. Behind the refrigerator, I have a Wise pop-up tent, Wolf Wise pop-up tent, that can be used to take a shower outdoors. Now, I don't have wires behind the wall very intentionally because I want to be able to change things around. And if I had wires behind the wall, I couldn't do that. So the wires are tucked in underneath. They're not very obtrusive. Now let's look at these cabinets. On this side, we have a tall, narrow cabinet, which has our thermometer so we can tell what temperature it is in here. And behind that is our electrical panel, which is where the electric connects to the batteries. And the main battery in use is behind this little hanging. We just take this off, and then we've got our battery. This is not the one I bring with me on long trips. This is a small one. On long trips, I have the Yeti 1500, which just fits in here. And then I may even have a second Yeti 1500 that I put behind this door, a second one, just so I have enough power. You know, we want to have beautiful art with affirming statements. Now I have upper cabinets with lights above them, and you'll notice my lights, I have green string lights, which is very nice at night, especially if you're outside looking in. A green glow from the van is, and I have LED lights around the kitchen counter, which can be turned off with this switch here. I have the reading lamp. So then up here, I have LED lights that can be turned on or off as well with a switch in here. In my view, it's also important to have battery-operated lights just in case you run low on electrical power. I have several of those. In these upper back cabinets, I have things that don't fit well anywhere else, especially these large road atlas books. I have a lot of hooks and carabiners on the wall because when I'm traveling, there are a lot of things that I end up needing to hang on the wall, such as, most notably, a backpack, which doesn't fit anywhere, as well as jackets and other bags that have things that I want immediate access to or which I am going to carry out. And this curtain pulls across. when we want it to look less busy, and then the curtain opens when we need access to these areas. And then this one is kind of a closet. It has a cargo netting, and it has a bag with some jackets, and then this is a laundry bag. And when I'm on a road trip, there will be a low temperature down sleeping bag in here as well. Now over here, these are two sets of what you could call medicine cabinets. You would not have these if you had insulation in your wall, because these cabinets make use of the 4 inches of space inside the van wall. They are 4 inches deep. Various small items. I like to bring a lot of different screws with me in case I have to do repairs along the way. And then over here, I have more medicine cabinet type things. Shampoos. I have this wind chime. A few other things to mention. Under the passenger seat, there is space, if you're clever, for storing extra paper towels and toilet paper. I do have a few small trays at the back of the kitchen counter for small, often needed items like reading glasses. When I look at other people's van conversions, I rarely see them having spiritual art or images. For me, that's important. So I have Tara, I have an icon of Jesus, and I have White Tara over here, and I've named my van after her, White Tara. Then I have a Buddha. I should also mention I bring along a folding camp chair, which can be used with my stowaway table outside the van. I have a couple battery-operated push lights, and then there's one over here by the door. Another thing to mention is I have a colorful hanging that goes over the side door entrance to create a privacy screen, or perhaps a shade screen to block out the sunlight. Also, I do have a kill switch in the van. It is located inside the lockable sink cabinet. It requires a key to turn on so that the engine cannot be started unless the kill switch is in the on position. And there are a lot of these different kill switches available that you could buy. Everything in this van was attached using either the original attachments for the polystyrene, these plastic anchors, or using bolts that go through holes in the existing van structure. So I didn't have to drill any holes into the van. I didn't have to glue anything. Everything is bolted on. This shows my art, hand-painted art on the sliding door when it is in the closed position. And then I have blackout curtains here, which can be pulled across to create a privacy screen. So now before I close, I want to mention the 3 things I would do differently if money were no object. The first is I would definitely get a high roof van because there's a lot more feeling of space. Maybe something as tough, cool looking as this one. The second is I would definitely get a side window on the side door. The third is I would get solar panels on the roof. That is actually the most important because I find that I struggle to keep my batteries charged enough to last more than, say, a week or 10 days. Now, this van design was done in something of a piecemeal fashion. I started with the bed and a sink cabinet, then I added more cabinets. I started out with a cooler using ice. I later got a refrigerator. I started out with a water container as my kitchen faucet. I later upgraded to a pump and faucet. So there have been changes along the way, and that's why I said earlier that I wanted a design that was changeable. For those wondering about the total cost of the van build, this gives a breakdown. The total cost was about $7,200, which is far less than most people spend who do the elaborate van builds. And this includes everything that was put into the van, including some high-price items. Note that I did not have to pay for a bed frame, as I already had that, and they're cheap anyway, an IKEA bed frame. I did not have to pay for a comforter or any of the linens or the sleeping bag, as I already had those. This just includes the things that I had to buy specifically for the van. The last thing to mention is another secret hidden thing. Underneath this carpet. What do we have? We have a road sign. We have a road closed sign. Now, why do I have a road closed sign in my van? Well, sometimes you want privacy.